Hi, everybody. Welcome to Affiliate Marketing Today. This is Bo Blackwell, and with me, as always, is Dush Rameshwaran. We're from ClickBank, and today we're bringing you a special guest. His name is Adam Short. He runs a program called Niche Profit Classroom, and is also just a veteran internet marketer. He's been at it for quite a while, and has some great tips on how to do niche marketing, how to identify niches, build sites around them, all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to talk through with him today around what his process is, kind of how he identifies good niches to go into and how he goes after them. So, Adam, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sounds good. Thanks guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And well, like Bo, like you mentioned, one of my specialties is niche marketing, and I've been doing that now for about 5 years. Before that, I was working at a company called Overture, and when I was still there, they were bought out by Yahoo. So I worked for Overture and then Yahoo for a little while as a marketing analyst, and started learning about internet marketing and advertising and traffic, and that kind of got me kickstarted into affiliate marketing. And over the course of a few years, I just started putting the pieces together and developed a process now that we use consistently to build sort of tightly focused niche websites. So niche sites on a very specific topic. We'll build one, optimize it, get some traffic to it, and either generate revenue as an affiliate or generate revenue as an actual product creator, as a vendor. And we just replicate that across, we've replicated that across lots of different markets with lots of different sites, and it's done quite well for us.
Great. That's certainly good to hear. And Adam, hi, this is Dush Ramachandran. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. Our listeners are usually very interested when they hear somebody like you to understand specifically how you go about picking topics, picking niches, for example. Do you go by what's current and what's sort of in the zeitgeist at this time, or do you pick specific topics? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we have a very specific process for that. And one key thing to understand about the model that we use is that we are after free traffic. Our ultimate goal is to get ranked highly in Google and other search engines. So one of the key things we look at when we're looking into markets is, are they non-competitive? So we want to find markets where it's going to be really easy for us to get high search engine rankings. And that's important to us because we want to have sites that have free traffic, that are low maintenance, and that get really good high quality traffic. And the search engines provide all that. It's one of the best sources of traffic in the world. So that's one of our focuses. We look for markets that are very low competition in the search engines. And the second part of that is we also look for markets where people are spending money. And there's a couple different places we go on the internet to find those markets. One thing that you can do is you can go to ClickBank. So that's one place that we go to ClickBank and look at the marketplace, and you can get a feel for which products are selling well by looking at the different stats on the products in the ClickBank marketplace. You can go over as well to Amazon.com, which is where we probably spend the majority of our time, and we look for what books are selling well. And you can dig into the marketplace, into the Amazon kind of marketplace, and you can see by looking at different information that Amazon provides how well a book is selling. And that gives us a feel for how much money is being spent in the market and which topics are popular and which ones aren't. So once we know that, we have a list of markets that are looking good and we know that there's money in them, then we'll take it to the next step and we'll say, okay, which ones are really non-competitive and we can get really good and easy rankings in the search engines for.
Adam, one thing that I've noticed when I've seen kind of your methods and the stuff that you teach is that you seem to dig down in niches quite a bit further, I guess, than some people do. You know, some people would think, okay, well, I'll go into the weight loss niche, or I'll go into, you know, make money online, or that sort of thing. You get some really interesting and kind of unique ones. The example that I've seen you use a few times is taking care of betta fish, a specific breed of fish.
Right.
How do you identify, you know, something sort of that niche in the first place to target, something that, you know, most people might not even know really exists as a market?
Yeah, it's that's a good question, and it's really fascinating what kinds of markets you can uncover when you just start. You know, one of the, you know, where we spend the most of our time is just sitting down and looking and just digging through Amazon, and markets start popping out that you would never consider. You just go to Amazon and start kind of just drilling down into their different categories. So we might go to Amazon and they have a category on the left called home and garden. We'll click on that, and then it'll break it down into different sections within home and garden. And one of those might be animal care and pets. We'll click on that, and it breaks it down into fish and birds and dogs and you know, horses, and then we'll drill into that, and then we'll see a whole new page open up, and a bunch of different topics there, different kinds of fish. And so one thing we noticed is that there was quite a few books on Amazon about betta fish, and they were actually selling really well for such a kind of tightly focused topic. And that piqued our interest. We said people are definitely willing to spend money on learning how to care for their fish. I mean, the evidence is right here on Amazon. And so if we build a niche site around that, I think we'll be targeting a pretty motivated audience. So that's where it comes from, just spending time, you know, a couple hours at least in Amazon, just kind of looking through.
Now, that's really interesting. So when you've built this niche site, let's say on betta fish, for example, at that point, do you create a member site out of it and charge people to become a member, or do you use the traffic to promote other products?
We usually start out by using the traffic to promote other products. So with the betta fish site, for example, I started out by, after I noticed that it looked like a pretty good market, I went over to ClickBank and I looked to see if anybody else had an ebook that they were selling on betta fish that I could promote. And the reason for that is I like to promote ebooks and other information products through ClickBank whenever possible, because usually the commission that I'll make as an affiliate is going to be higher versus if I just promoted a book over at Amazon.
Right.
They don't pay nearly as high a commission usually. So I'll start out by promoting someone else's product, and that's exactly what I did with the betta site. And once I noticed that it was selling well and I was making good money as an affiliate, I then had my own ebook created and started selling that.
Okay. How do you? I know this is kind of a big topic, but just kind of a brief overview. How do you source the material for something like that? I mean, you know, I can't. If you're not an expert at raising betta fish, where do you go to find people that know about that or people to work with?
Yeah, there's a couple different methods we've used successfully to get products created, and that is a challenge. That's a question we get a lot when we're teaching this. Is exactly what you just mentioned, Bo. You know, if you're not an expert, what do you do? And one of the easiest things that you can do is just find an expert. And so one of the things we like to do is, you know, if we're working on a site now on knitting, and so we want to put together some videos and some other audios and ebooks on knitting. So we went to Craigslist, and we just posted an ad looking for an expert on knitting who would be interested in being interviewed and maybe even getting on video and just sharing their knowledge about knitting. And so our plan at this point is to find that person and then interview them, record the material. If you want to have an ebook created, one of the easiest things you can do is sit down and interview someone for a few hours and have that transcribed. So we'll interview someone using Skype or some other tool for recording, and then we'll take that recording and we'll load it up to a site called iDictate, or you can use any transcription service you want. And then the transcribed document comes back to us. We have it edited, and you pretty much have a solid ebook at that point. It just needs to be polished and but it's pretty much ready to be sold.
Great. That is absolutely fascinating. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with our guest, Adam Short. So here's a quick break, and we'll be back soon. And we're back, and we were talking with our guest, Adam Short, who has built a very successful business building mini sites and in specific niche markets, and we were talking to him about specific techniques that he uses. Adam, so that was a very interesting explanation of how you drive traffic and how you create products. Do you use any specific tools to create your sites? Like, do you use WordPress themes, or do you have, or do you just knock it up in using Enview or any one of those HTML editors? How do you do that?
Yeah, in the past we've used both the tools you just mentioned, but today we mostly use WordPress. I would say 90% of our niche sites are built on WordPress, and the ones that aren't, they're the older ones when we were still figuring things out and we were using tools like FrontPage and Dreamweaver and NVU to piece the sites together. But actually, since we build so many of these now and we've really wanted to automate the process, we took WordPress and customized it so that it makes it much easier to build a site that fits the model that we want it to have. But if somebody's just starting out and they don't have access to that software that we have, WordPress is the best way to go. You can build an excellent site using WordPress really easily and not have to be too technically advanced at all to do it. The other key tool that we use is a list building service. So when somebody comes to our site, we like to build a newsletter list. And having a list is a nice thing to have in internet marketing because it's something that you can market to your list and generate income that way. And so we use Aweber to collect our leads and actually communicate with our list. So those are really the two big tools.
Okay. List building is something that everybody talks about and very few people do. Everybody kind of seems to know that you need a list, but they can't figure out how to build one on their site, or they feel like, maybe their site isn't the right kind of market for a list. So is that something that you always do, or do you do it on certain sites and not on others? And again, I guess, do you kind of source content for your email autoresponders the same kind of way that you do if you're creating a product, or is there a different process for that?
Yeah, for our list, we in terms of building the lists, in most of the markets we go into, they're a pretty good fit for having a newsletter. And so for most of our sites, we do build a list. And over the long term, if you have a list and you have a good relationship with the list, you keep in close contact and send good information to the list, they're going to be responsive and they'll stay responsive for years. And so different offers that you find, you can promote and generate income from your list for years. So having a list, we found, makes the site overall much more profitable over the long term usually. So in terms of sourcing the content, that can be a challenge once you start having a lot of different sites on a lot of different topics. So what we've started doing is just hiring ghostwriters, and so we'll find someone on Craigslist, or we'll go to Elance and post an ad on Elance, which is a free site where you can find independent contractors, and we'll educate them on what we need and have them create good, solid emails that we send out to our list. That's pretty much the process.
Okay. One thing we should jump into, you're talking about how you target free traffic, and I know you have a really interesting system, I guess you could call it, with the money word matrix that you've developed. I don't know if you'd be willing to talk through that a little bit here, or if you kind of want to just in general talk about how you try to identify what's going to allow you to get free traffic or level of competition versus search volume or that sort of thing. But could you talk a little bit about how you sort of identify the keywords you target and then get traffic to the site using those?
Sure thing. Keywords, well, yeah, as you mentioned, Bo, getting free traffic is like our number one goal when we build these sites, is getting them ranked highly in the search engines. And for anyone listening who has ever done SEO, you might have been frustrated at some point. I know there's been many times when I started doing SEO and getting familiar with it that I just got super frustrated. I'd been working really hard at it and wasn't seeing any results. And actually, I spent over a year kind of banging my head against the wall trying to figure out how it worked and not making any headway. The turning point was when a friend of mine actually started sharing some information with me that really changed the course of how I was doing things. And he basically taught me the importance of keywords and the way to go about choosing keywords. And that really is what I found will make or break a search engine campaign. If you choose the right keywords, your chances of getting ranked highly increase multiple times. So most people don't go about choosing keywords the right way, and that is what causes the headaches. So the key thing about keywords is you have to look at keywords just as you would look at a market. You want to ultimately find keywords that have low competition but high demand. So there's a lot of people searching for the keywords, but there aren't a lot of other sites competing to get ranked highly for those keywords. So those are what we call money keywords. And we've developed, you mentioned the matrix, but we have a matrix that we use in our business where it's basically, it's a little bit tough to describe since you can't see it, but it's essentially looking at search volume and number of competing sites. And it ranks keywords based on those two criteria as either poor, fair, good, or excellent keywords. And ultimately, we want high search volume keywords to get a lot of traffic to your site. And you want the lowest competition keywords possible so you can get rankings super easily. And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, the biggest mistake and probably a big piece of advice I would want to give today is just when you're doing your keyword research, don't just go after the keywords that are really high search volume keywords. Those are usually the most competitive ones. You have to dig a little deeper and find and look at the competition level of the keyword too.
Okay, great. I think that definitely makes sense, and you're absolutely right that most people probably make the mistake of targeting the really broad, huge volume keywords and hoping to just get a little piece of that, but you end up getting zero piece of it. So it doesn't help you unless you can, get even just a little bit of a less competitive term. So. Great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking more with Adam about his training program and how he teaches internet marketing. Okay, and we're back with more affiliate marketing today, and our guest, Adam Short. And Adam, I wanted to just ask you if you could let us know a little bit about how you teach this and sort of what your system looks like, the name of it, where people can find it, all that kind of stuff, since you've given a lot of great advice so far on how to do this stuff if people are interested in learning more.
Sure. If anyone is interested in learning more, I have a training center, and the website is nicheprofitclassroom.com. And basically, at NPC, that's where you'll find the in-depth training that I put together on how to go through the entire process of creating one of these sites. So it's a video-based training center, and it's a really in-depth course on how to do it. And so at the end of the course, the ultimate objective, of course, is for you to have a website up, and also for you to know how to do it and be educated on how everything works so that you can build these websites and actually have the skills and continue to do it for however long you want to do it and reach whatever income goals that you'd like to reach. So that's the first part. The second part is software. If you really want to start building a lot of these sites and make it easier on yourself, there's software tools that we offer in the members area that I had developed for myself in my own business to make things easier. So software that finds keywords, finds markets, the site building software, the WordPress site building software I mentioned earlier is in there, and a multitude of other tools as well. So it's a good place to get an education and learn how to do this stuff.
Now, Adam, the other question that comes up that a lot of our listeners are probably wondering about is how easy is it to get started in this? Are the barriers to entry very high? Is it complicated, or would you recommend that there's a particular way in which our listeners might be able to dip their toe in the water before jumping all the way in?
Sure. If you go to that, we offer a series of free videos that will give you some good exposure to the method and talk in more detail about some of the things we've touched on today. So you'll find those if you just go to the website nicheprofitclassroom.com. You'll see the section where you can get those videos. Like anything, niche marketing and internet marketing is a skill. There's definitely things that you have to learn, but once you learn them and have the skill, it's not complicated at all. It's actually pretty simple. So there's a bit of a learning curve for sure, but once you get over that and acquire the knowledge, actually doing it becomes really easy. So
that's great.
One question we've asked a couple of guests in the past, and I think you'd have good insight since you're doing this all the time, is a lot of people seem to think that it's kind of too late or too competitive to get started in affiliate marketing or niche marketing, that every niche under the sun's already been explored and kind of too tough to get into. Do you find that at all, or do you find that there's still plenty of room for people to make their mark and kind of establish a site or a business?
Yeah, I think there is still a lot of room. We've been doing niche marketing for, like I mentioned, about 5 years now, and we've uncovered maybe, I'll just say thousands of niche markets, and we've only been able to tap into a couple hundred of them over the course of about half a decade. So there are lots and lots of untapped markets out there, and there's actually very few people, relatively speaking, who are educated on how to do niche marketing properly. So when you put those two things together, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential, and the whole kind of concept of that the internet's overrun and that it's too competitive really is, I think, an illusion. And it's easy when you're getting into internet marketing you see the success that others are having, and it's easy to kind of fall into the idea that it's super competitive, but that really is an illusion. The internet is huge. There's lots of markets and plenty of room for everyone.
Great. That is very encouraging news, and I'm sure our guests and listeners would be very happy to hear that. Any last words of advice? We have just a few minutes for anybody entering this business. Any key things that they should be looking for? Any pitfalls that they should avoid? Any ideas that you might be able to provide?
Sure. I think my biggest piece of advice would be not to fall into the idea that there's any sort of just push button solution that's going to make you lots of money without you having to really do any work. It really is important, if you're going to get into internet marketing, to know that you do need to get educated on how at least the key things work. You don't have to be technically minded or have a technical background. And even to this day, I can't write any code. I can't do anything technically complicated. I can, drag my mouse and click on things, but that's about it. But nevertheless, I still have to know, I have to be educated on how the internet works and how everything fits together. So my advice would be prepared to do a little bit of work and to get educated, but the learning curve isn't that steep. And I truly believe, having taught thousands of people how to do niche marketing, that anybody can be successful if they take action and they're prepared to do a little bit of work and stick with it.
Great. That is very good advice. And